All right, I believe we have a quorum. So with that, I'll call the Snoqualmie City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilmember James.
Here.
Councilmember Ross.
Here.
Councilmember Holloway.
Here.
Councilmember Mayhew.
Here.
Councilmember Lassay.
Here.
Councilmember Sundwall.
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
And Mayor Larson.
I am here. Council, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented tonight?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Councilmember Shepherd, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to take the warrants off of the consent agenda.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, with that, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. All right, motion is carried. With that, we move on to public hearings, presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And I'm happy to welcome Stephanie Norton-Bredel, our branch executive director of the YMCA, our community center, has a short presentation for us tonight. So Stephanie, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Am I sharing my screen or will you be showing my slides?
I don't know what arrangements you made with staff, but if you can go ahead and attempt to share your screen if you'd like.
Okay.
There we go.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. Let's see if I can get that on the slide presentation. I'm really surprised that a year later, we're still doing this virtually. This has been an unusual year. My first day was in March of last year, so it's been a strange year to take on a new job. But happy to be here and happy to let you know what's been happening at the Y for the past year. So yeah, thank you. This is a quick overview of just what the past year has looked like up until May of this year. So just a reminder, we closed on March 16th of last year. At that time, we had about 12,000 memberships, 3,500 members. When we closed, we ended up reducing our working staff team down to 2 operations staff, myself and my membership director. And then we had about 12 childcare staff who were doing childcare for first responders. We shut down the community shower program for about a month, but we got that up and going. And we've been running that since the spring of last year with really limited hours, mostly because we only had 2 staff. And so we had to run it when both of us were there in the building at the same time. We reopened in July with just group wellness classes. In August, we opened the fitness floor to 1/3 capacity, reduced hours, limited group wellness classes, and then we had to close again in November. At that time, we maintained 5 operations staff and again, about 12 childcare staff. We reopened again in February with 30% capacity. We reduced hours, limited group wellness offerings. And that's what we've been doing for the past few months. In April, we've been able to open up to 50% capacity. We added a few more group wellness classes, and then throughout the pandemic, we've been offering consistent childcare and mental health and social services throughout the pandemic. The social services are run through our Social Impact Center, which is housed in Seattle, but they serve people all over King, even a little bit in Pierce and Snohomish County. And we're serving about 25 people in the Snoqualmie area through our mental health services. Our membership units now sit about 1/3 of what they were when we shut down last year. but slowly growing. And under our social responsibility umbrella last year, we fundraised $148,000. We continued the community shower program. We worked on some hunger initiatives. We provided mental health support. We used to just offer that to youth, but through the pandemic, we expanded our mental health offerings to anybody of any age. And it's on a sliding fee scale. We do take some insurances, but essentially, if anybody needs mental health support, they can get it through the Y, and they're not going to be turned away because of inability to pay. We've offered some housing support. We had vouchers for young people that were that were at risk for eviction. And then our Y is really leaned into equity and social justice work and education. And the virtual world has really helped us do that in a much broader way, where we've had a lot of workshops, education opportunities, panel discussions, things like that, that we've had people from all over the country participating in. And then some of our community partners that we've been able to maintain and continue to work with throughout the pandemic are Nourishing Networks, Empower Youth Network, TLC, the school district, Girl Scouts, and I Serve, just to name a few. This is one of our board members, Regina Talbert. We've been, like I said, really working hard on doing sort of a deep dive into diversity and inclusion and social justice. And we got invited by Empower Youth Network to participate in a book club focusing around racial healing. And so I talked about it with my board, and we got a few of us to participate in that book club. And that's been a really good experience for us. And this shows our TLC young people that come in, help out at our Y. In the spring, we were able to allow them to come back, and they've been helping us keep the Y looking nice and getting some on-the-job work training. And one of the things that I have been most proud of is our board has stayed really engaged during this time when it's been a sort of a hard time to be engaged. But the Y has really needed to lean on our board for advice and direction. And during this time, we got a new board chair. Her name is also Stephanie, and she's done a nice job of keeping our board engaged during this time. So under the youth development umbrella, we have served a lot of kids in Snoqualmie over the past year. So with Camp Imagine, which was our initial daycare or childcare that we were doing for kids of first responders, and then it eventually opened up to anybody. We served 725 kids. So that was from about March of last year to June until summer camp started. Camp Classic, we served 325 kids. Leap Academy has been our in-school time care that we've been doing since the school year started. 1,400 kids. Our summer camp projections are looking good. Not as good as they were prior to the pandemic, but they're starting to pick up, and we're offering a little more this year. So we have kids on their way, and those are for kids that are entering kindergarten. We'll be offering Peak Camp, which is for tweens and teens, and then Camp Keller, which is our outdoor day camp. We've also been able to start adding some small group sports workshops, which we've been able to start adding the past month or so. We have a climbing wall at Camp Keller that we did some family climbs and some youth climbs with. We have started offering open gym by reservation. Any youth 10 or older can use the facility now, 10 to 14 or 10 to 13 with parental or supervision, parental or adult supervision. And then throughout the pandemic, we've had a large selection of virtual youth and family offerings, but I know that virtual is not what families are looking for anymore. So this is a quote from one of our kiddos at Leap Academy. And essentially he said the 2 weeks he had to be quarantined at home were the most boring weeks of his life. He's a 6-year-old. And then part of how we look at youth development is developing our young staff. The YMCA is the largest employer of youth in King County. And a lot of our young staff had to be furloughed or laid off at the beginning of the pandemic, but we're now happy to be bringing staff back. So under the Healthy Living umbrella, right now we're seeing up to 70 members a day. We see the most members on the days that we have our senior classes or active older adult classes. We've added classes both in the AM and the PM. We have senior specific classes, which, like I said, are very popular. We have open gym for adults and families, by reservation, youth sports workshops, virtual workouts for adults. We've had virtual chronic disease prevention programs. And actually some of those programs have their enrollment has boosted through the pandemic because doing them virtually has brought a level of convenience to people that they didn't have before. And these are essentially run like a support group. So you don't need to be in person to do it. And we're finding that we're able to get a few more people. The enrollment is not as much of a barrier without the commute. We've had some virtual youth and family fitness classes, and our virtual cooking classes have been really popular. And these are a couple of our members that have come back. And generally what we're hearing from members is that they're just really happy that they can come back to the Y and start exercising, and that they feel safe in our facilities because we're doing a good job of following the protocols and cleaning and just safety in general. And these are some of our seniors that have come back. And like I said, they have been our most vocal and loyal customers. And they're really excited to be vaccinated and back to class. So what's coming up? We were hoping that this mask requirement was going to be removed actually this week. But because the King County Health Department is recommending that in inside venues and in work environments that we continue to wear masks, we're continuing with the mask requirement for a bit longer. We're now offering Kids Club by reservation. And what that is that's our drop-in childcare. So that's going to make it better for families that need to drop off kids to work out. We haven't been offering that until we're going to start offering that in June. We are adding additional youth workshops and sports, and these are not just for members. Any family can sign up for these. And as always, we always have financial assistance available for anybody who might need it. Family time reservations, so people can reserve our kids zone for their family if they just want to get out of the house and play in our kids zone. All ages are going to be returning to the Y in June. We have additional open gym time, and we're going to add some teen gym time or teen basketball time, which we haven't been able to do since we shut down. We're going to be expanding our hours of operation in July. We have, we'll continue to expand our group wellness offerings. The way that it works right now, because of space capacity and limitations, we've had to do this by reservations, but we're hoping that if we do truly reopen the entire state, June 30th, that we can give way of those reservation systems. And so we won't have limitations to the number of people in our classes, which is going to significantly help the number of people that are coming through our door. We'll add some outdoor classes. We'll start having community meetings in our facility again. We're looking for camp and after school programs to grow back to what they were prior to 2020. We'll be able to bring back family nights and other community events that we've had to put on hold. And then we're really looking forward to continuing to hire and rehire staff. And then this last quote is from one of our board members who also is a council member for the Snoqualmie tribe. And we recently worked together at a food event, which brought a couple of carloads of food to our food bank in North Bend. I've really enjoyed working with Suzanne. She's a true, she's almost a professional volunteer. And that's it. Any questions for me?
All right, any questions, council? Stephanie, thanks for taking the time out. And I'm sure I'm speaking for the rest of the council and staff when I say thank you for hanging in there. It's clearly been a pretty tough year where you've taken a 57% drop in your membership and I'm sure a proportional amount of revenue as well. So
Yes.
very, very tough year indeed for you folks, but especially given the nature of the work you do, it's got to be pretty tough, but bright days ahead. So sorry that this had to be your introduction year, but at least there's nowhere to go but up at this point. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I think. If I can weather this, I can weather anything.
Yeah. So we do have a few questions. We'll start with Councilmember Ross and Lissay, then Shepherd. I didn't see whose hand went up first, so sorry about that.
So Stephanie, thank you for the presentation. As Mayor Larson said, I'm sure it has been a challenging year for you guys. But I also appreciate that you continue doing like the shower program and the first responders daycare and different things like that really helped our residents and people in the community during that time. You mentioned that you took probably lost a third of the membership. I think during a discussion with you at one point, you mentioned a lot of them just put their membership on hold. You were hoping that they would do that, right?
Yeah. So we still have about a third of those memberships on hold. So we have about 540 memberships that have come off hold, and those are membership units. So those are active members. We probably have another 300 that are on hold. And there were quite a few people that were saying, when we'll come back, but they were just tired of being on hold. So we're pretty confident that we can get back to where we were. But the projections kind of based on what has happened with otherwise across the country is that we probably won't be fully back to where we were until around this time next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on. Councilor Lissay and Councilmember Shepherd. Sorry, I have Councilmember.
Stephanie, I think, if we all had a crystal ball and could have predicted this, it's amazing, that you guys hung in there. And I think that's a lot to be said, that you didn't just close the doors like a lot of places had. So thank you for keeping the community center open. I'm interested to hear what you might think maybe a takeaway is right now, obviously knowing that we're not out of COVID-19, it's going to continue for a while. But what sort of things have you guys found would be useful for you in your operational activities going forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things we know that we really need to serve families. And that's just been the regulations for kids has been different than for adults. And because kids can't be vaccinated, there's just been a lot of challenges around what can we do that feels safe for families. So I think I think as we're moving forward, continuing to figure out ways that we can serve families in a in-person setting, because that's what we're hearing families want, but in ways that are keeping kids safe. So is it expanding to more spaces so that we can, if we have to continue to do the social distancing thing, are there other nonprofits that we could share some space with, or churches or whatever those are, so that we can run more activities for kids and families. I think that's one thing that we figured out. And then our seniors, they got vaccinated early, and they were ready and raring to go. And we weren't quite ready yet. And so, because our Y is part of a larger association, we're not always as agile as I would like us to be. And I think that we've gotten better at it, but we need to keep learning how to pivot more quickly so that we can, because honestly, sometimes it feels like it's moving so slowly, and other times it feels like the changes are so rapid, and the recommendations and the guidelines are constantly changing. That's been one of the things operationally that's been challenging to handle. And so sometimes we've stayed in the safe space when we maybe could have served people faster if we had pivoted a little more quickly.
Thank you. We have a very full agenda tonight, so unfortunately we'll have to wrap this up with a question from Peggy, Councilmember Shepherd.
I didn't know what a member unit is.
Oh, yeah. So membership unit could be a couple or a family or a single person or a youth membership. So the reason we use that term is because it doesn't necessarily represent the number of members. And in Snoqualmie, we have a lot of families. So we might have more people per membership unit than a branch that maybe serves a larger number of seniors.
Great. All right, Stephanie, again, thank you very much for, again, your tenacity and for coming tonight. I did want to clarify real quick that from my calculation, going from 1,267 down to 540 units was a 57% drop, not a third in your total membership units. So again, a pretty devastating hit, but glad to hear you're hanging in there and looking forward to slowly getting things back to normal. So
thank you.
All right, have a good evening. Yeah, don't feel you need to hang around. No one's going to be offended if you.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
So with that, we're going to move on to citizens' comments. I see that there are 3 citizens that have joined us tonight. I'm not sure who's on. The number ends, or the phone number 2064410. Valerie Stewart has her hand up. Valerie, at this time, you would be given 3 minutes to speak. I don't know if Mark or Joey or someone has a clock.
All right. Hello, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Valerie Stewart. I'm here today on behalf of the Snoqualmie Valley Local Advocacy Team. It's a coalition of Valley human service providers led by CarePoint Free Clinic, Empower Youth Network, Encompass, the Far East Senior Hub, Snow Valley Senior Center, Snoqualmie Valley Transportation, and Trail Youth. First, I want to thank you for your unparalleled leadership and commitment to the citizens of Snoqualmie and the Upper Valley. You've consistently shown that you care and have gone out of your way to think outside the box to try and meet the needs of your residents. We appreciate working with you. These are uncertain times. The essential services that enable all the people to live their best lives, which many of us take for granted, include things like early childhood development, programs for youth and families, services for older adults, individuals with disabilities or mental health challenges, access to healthcare, safe housing, and mobility. As we move to reopen from COVID-19, you may be wondering what the current human services needs are in the Snoqualmie Valley. I'm here to share a few of these needs with you here tonight. A child's early years lay foundation for all that is to come. COVID-19 interrupted access to critical services, early learning, parenting, support, early intervention, that support important growth and development for young children and families. For our most vulnerable families, the pandemic has made needs even worse, whether they are financial, academic, or emotional needs. As families begin to seek out services again, their needs are extensive and layered. These providers are struggling to meet the increasing demand, as well as maintain COVID restrictions. For example, Encompass currently has a long and growing wait list for both their summer camp and preschool program, and more than 75 are waiting for behavioral health services. This past March, Governor Inslee declared a state of emergency in all the counties due to the current status of the mental health and behavior health of many of the state's children and youth. Our Snoqualmie Valley youth are no exception. We continue to hear from youth and parents about struggles with depression and anxiety. Empower Youth Network and Trail Youth are working closely with schools, healthcare, and county partners to increase access to and knowledge of key resources and supports. COVID-19 has significantly impacted older adults. It isolates and diminishes quality of life. Some seniors have not left their homes since last year. Many of our seniors are impacted by food insecurity and lack of in-person programming, and it's affecting both their mental and physical health. Snow Valley and Mount Si Senior Centers continue to seek creative ways to keep seniors engaged, nourished, and active. Healthcare has never been easy for those without medical insurance or without means. COVID-19 has interrupted access to critical services like primary healthcare, especially for those uninsured or underinsured. Trying to decide.
Valerie, I'm sorry, I have to treat everybody the same in terms of the timekeeping. If you could just conclude your comments in 1 minute, and if you have quite a bit more, I'd ask you to email or submit that to the city clerk, and she can.
I sure will. So we just wanted to sum up that together, this advocacy team are working to build strong and resilient community. And together we can meet the needs of our residents, including seniors, preschoolers, and those with healthcare issues. And we hope that you see that these needs are important and that the council continues to increase human services funding throughout the valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for all the good work you do and all the folks, of course, the coalition.
Sure, thanks.
Thanks for taking the time to come speak to us tonight. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak at this time to any item that's not on the agenda? All right. Seeing no one's hand go up, we will move on to the consent agenda. All items listed below being enacted by one motion. Action items include minutes for the May 10th, 2021 regular city council meeting. Other approvals include Agenda Bill 21030, Resolution 1580, determining the lowest responsive bidder and awarding a public works contract and authorizing execution of a contract with Pacific Civil and Infrastructure for the Snoqualmie Infrastructure Improvement Project Phase 2. Do I have a motion, Council?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second as stated. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on the consent agenda, or any items in the consent agenda prior to off-walking? No one's hand go up. Councilmember Shepherd, go ahead. Councilmember Shepherd, if you can unmute.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so one question I have is, will this require more taxes or taking out a bond?
Ryan Coleman, or who would like to take that question? Your public works staff or Mark?
This is already part of the bond, and I believe, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is the final project on the bond list.
So indeed, these are one of the final projects on the list for the most part, and no, it will not require additional or new taxes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Councilor Ross.
As part of this, can you do the open house similar to what you did for Newton Street, so it keeps all the residents in the area aware of what the project looks like?
Yes, we have recently just done drone footage, and I am working on a script to do the voiceover and presentation for that.
Excellent, thank you.
No, Councilmember Shepherd, did you have another question?
No.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments, council? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes unanimously. And as is our normal protocol and procedure, we will move on to immediately taking up any items that have been removed from the consent agenda. So can I have a motion and a second to approve the warrants as presented tonight?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the warrants as presented. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on the warrants prior to possible action? Seeing no one's hand go up, I'll turn to the chair of the council's audit committee to make any comments first. Councilmember Mayhew, go ahead.
All right, I'll report to the council that the listing of claims and warrants was distributed to all council members in advance of last week's Finance and Administration Committee meeting. And that lists the payees and amounts for each claim being paid, as is done at other cities in Washington. Any council member may ask for information about any claim they would like more information about. No requests for more information were received from any council member on any of these claims. These claims are the normal routine expenses of the city, including the payroll for city employees. As a reminder, if any council member wishes to pull individual claims from the schedule for separate voting, they may do so. Voting not to approve the entire listing means the city would not pay employees or the many contractors who provide routine services such as maintenance of parks and city facilities and so forth. The committee members reviewed claims and warrants and recommended approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Shepherd, go ahead.
Yes, I'm not going to be approving the warrants because I don't have reasonable access to all the supporting documents that go with the checks that are being written, which is what a process we had prior to the pandemic. And looking at a list of a lot of things that I would have questions about, it makes more sense just to bring all of the documents along with all of the check numbers and who the check is written to, but there's really no information to base a decision on as far as approving warrants.
Thank you. Any questions or any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay.
No.
All right, motion passes 6-1. All right, moving on to reports. Parks and Public Works Committee, Agenda Bill 21037, Resolution 1582, declaring the existence of a single source of supply and special facilities and market conditions and waiving competitive bidding requirements for the purchase of materials and equipment and authorizing purchase thereof.
Move to adopt Resolution 1582, declaring the existence of a single source of supply and special facilities and market conditions and waiving competitive bidding requirements for the purchase of materials and equipment and authorizing purchase thereof, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 21037 as stated by the chair. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to possible action? I don't see any hands going up. So with that, we'll, Councilmember Shepherd, you have a hand up? Go ahead. If you could unmute, please.
Yeah, I noticed that this is part of the AB 21-32, which is where they're talking about doing competitive bidding.
I don't know if I understand the question. Brian or anyone, do you want to take that comment or question?
Yeah, this is Jeff Hamlin with the, yeah. So I don't know if I understand your question, council member.
Okay, so on AB 32, this is where the agreement between King County and the city of Snoqualmie they want to do, they need to have competitive bidding. And this agenda bill is saying that we want to waive competitive bidding. So I'm trying to understand where this, when this is all having to do with the records office revetment, correct?
This is the record office revetment. This one is a little bit out of sequence. I noticed that we have, this 2137 going ahead of two others, which actually are all going together. So really the one that we should be talking about first is the agenda bill for the agreement with King County, because if that one doesn't go, then this one is moot. However,
And isn't that part of an executive session?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we do have an executive.
Hold on, let me recognize the city attorney, please.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Mayor, we do have an executive session scheduled on one of these. I think as we explained to the Parks and Public Works Committee, this item could go on its own, probably should, given the timing and other considerations that are outlined in the resolution itself and the staff report. However, council, or your pleasure, Mayor, we can certainly hold the three related record office revetment items together, have a conversation separately with council first, and then take those up.
Yeah, I think that if that's okay with this, there's no objection from the council as a whole. Let's go ahead and hold on any further discussions on Agenda Bill 21037. We'll hold that item off along with Agenda Bill 032 and 033 until after. So let's get through, if everybody could, whoever's got the noise in the background, if they could mute, please. We will go through the remainder of the agenda, go into executive session, come out of executive session, then we'll address those three agenda bills. Is there any objection to that?
That makes sense.
All right, hearing no objection, that's the way we'll proceed. So at this point, we'll suspend further conversations on 037 and move on to Agenda Bill 21029, Resolution 1579, accepting conveyance of Snoqualmie Ridge 2, Parcel 21A, Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, public utility, street lighting, landscaping, irrigation, street signage, and pavement marking improvements.
Move to adopt resolution 1582, declaring the existence of a single source of supply and special facilities and marking conditions and waiving competitive bidding requirements for the purchase of materials and
I'm
equipment.
sorry, that's you're reading 037. If you could read 029, please.
There it is. Move to adopt resolution.
1579.
Is that the right one?
Yes.
It should be Resolution 1579, accepting conveyance of Snoqualmie Ridge 2, Parcel 21A.
Okay. Move to adopt resolution 1579, accepting conveyance of Snoqualmie Ridge 1, Parcel 521A, Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, public utilities, street lighting, landscaping, irrigation, and street signage and pavement marking improvements, and authorizing mayor to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 21029, as stated by the chair. Chair, I wanted to ask before maybe making a friendly
Mr.
amendment.
Mayor, it'd be better if one of the other committee members read the motion so it could be understood in the record.
Can you guys not hear me?
I could understand him. Could no one else hear the chair?
It was fine.
I heard it.
Okay, I think we all heard it, Councilman Osei, sorry.
It's just me.
Yeah, Councilmember Sunwall, you seem to have corrected Snoqualmie Ridge Phase 2 to Phase 1. Was there a reason for that? Because
I just couldn't read it. It's just call me Phase 2.
Okay, thank you. So just for the record to clarify that it was part of Phase 2. All right. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on this item prior to possible action? All right. Seeing no one's hand go up, Councilmember Shepherd, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't see a construction completion report that's signed by a professional engineer for this.
Again, Brian or Jeff, or anyone want to take that one?
Mayor, I believe the city attorney is going to take it.
I'm sorry, you're right, Mark. City
Mr.
attorney.
Mayor, those are required in some occasions, but not all, because there are many exceptions for publicly built projects related, new facilities related to water and sewer that the city pursues. These are facilities that were constructed by a private developer through a contract with the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. So we wouldn't typically see that certification coming in. We do require, as a condition of the developer extension agreement, and have obtained here certified as-built plans signed by the engineer of record for the design and construction of those facilities. And so we have those at hand. And I should note that CEO Renee Jensen from the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital and a number of folks from the hospital, including their general counsel, Charles Skiphauser, are on the call and available to answer questions the mayor or council members have specific needs.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions or comments, council? Councilor Shepherd, you still have your hand up there. Did you have another question?
Yes. So on another item in our past, we have dismissed that there was no requirement for this. And then after talking to the Department of Health, it was confirmed that it was a requirement. And eventually our city did finally get that sign off. So I would either like to see the sign off or see something from the Department of Health saying, no, it's not necessary. One or the other.
All right. Any other questions, comments, council? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. All those opposed say nay.
No.
All right. Motion passes 6-1. With that, we will move on to the discussion items under Parks and Public Works. The item is the,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
I'm going to turn my video off. I'm having some internet difficulties here. Just wanted to let you know I'm still on, but I'm going to have the video off.
I understand. Thank you for letting us know. All right. Mark, did you or do you want to do this, or we don't have the interim public works director here yet, but who wants to do the honors? I'm recognizing I didn't get the script here, but the public works department got a pretty prestigious award or recognition from the Association of Public Works Association or National Association. And
Yeah, I think Jeff or Brian are best equipped to give the report. Jeff?
Yeah, I can do it. Sure. We had a video, but I don't know that we can show it. I guess there's I guess we don't have enough bandwidth out at Public Works to perhaps play that video. Maybe IT can do it for us. But what this is, we submitted for an award. The American Public Works Association every year gives awards for what they consider to be the most successful projects in the various different categories. This year, our water reclamation project, phase 2 water reclamation project, was selected as the project of the year in the Washington chapter in the environmental category. This is a very successful project for the city because of significant operational improvements to the facility, a lot of safety and operational flexibility improvements, especially ecological and environmental benefits with reduced materials going to the landfill, less hauling, less water and gas usage, and also significant cost savings to the city. So we're very proud of this award and very happy to receive it. And we thought the folks on council and in our community would like to see it. And it looks like we got the video up. That's great. See if we can play it. Well, it was worth it just for that.
5 million.
This year's winner for the Award of Environment, $5 to $25 million, goes to the City of Snoqualmie for their Phase 2. In 2015, a fire within the City of Snoqualmie's water reclamation facility required the facility to be constructed. You heard that correctly, a fire within a water reclamation facility. Just let that set in. Not only was reconstruction of the facility the largest endeavor the City of Snoqualmie had taken on in decades, but it was an opportunity to make the water reclamation facility more sustainable and self-sufficient, all while positively and responsibly contributing to mitigating climate change causes and effects. The benefits associated with the rebuilt water reclamation facility are considerable. They range from substantial operating cost savings, increased safety, improved reliability, and more environmentally friendly processes. The improvements have earned the Washington State Department of Ecology's Wastewater Treatment Plant Outstanding Performance Award. That's a mouthful. 2 years in a row, and will continue into the future. Phase 1 of the project was completed in 2017, and while that portion was under construction, RH2 proceeded with Phase 2. The project faced many unusual challenges, including the weather. In 2019, a record 3-foot snowfall threatened the timeline and project budget. However, the project team rose to the occasion. The Prospect construction team even helped the city clear roads within the project vicinity during the snow event. Phase 2 of the project consisted of a new solids handling system that included all these great things. A structure to house the new thickening, dewatering, and biosolids hauling truck loadout system, a new aerobic digester and aeration system, new operations building, a new odor control system, and let's be honest, that's the most important part, for the solids handling building and headworks facility. Replacement of the grit classifier, retrofit of an existing clarifier, and installation of a new Vector decant station. By adding the ability to refine biosolids that can be applied to crops and farmlands, the city now requires fewer and shorter haul trips and eliminates the need and cost of disposing the waste at a landfill. The new water reclamation facility is projected to save the city at least $4.2 million in operating costs over the next 10 years. Accepting this award is the city of Snoqualmie.
Hello, APWAers. My name is Jeff Hamlin. I am currently the Utility Operations Manager with the city of Snoqualmie. And I want to say on behalf of myself and the folks who work at the city and the utility how pleased we are to receive this award and to be recognized for a very good project with the city. The Water Reclamation Facility Phase 2 is a very great success for our city. Some of the key benefits are improved solids handling capabilities, of course. Primarily cost, we are going to save a minimum of $4 million over the next 10 years just in disposal costs. For recognitions, we have to start with our engineer. RH2 Engineering did an outstanding job, particularly Dan Malum, their project manager, and his team were outstanding all the way through the process. They were terrific. So real pros in the industry. Prospect Construction also deserves great recognition. They were team-oriented, worked collaboratively, got us through some difficult situations, and we just couldn't be happier with their performance on this project. And then also I'd like to recognize our wastewater staff, some of our key operators, Tom Holmes in particular, and Todd Saxberg, one of our senior operators, did outstanding. They had the operational knowledge which really helped with the building blocks to make this such a successful project. So again, I want to say thank you to the selection committee for picking our project as one of the Project of the Year awards recipients, and we appreciate that you reward good design and true professionals in the industry. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations to the city of Snoqualmie and the Phase 2 Water Reclamation Facility design and construction team.
Yeah, that was hard to watch.
That was great, Jeff. Thank you. You guys had a good reason to be very, very proud. And then certainly for all the, I'd say kudos to the council, to all those involved in getting that through. That was a tough conversation. Putting that whole plan together and the bond together to get that done. And again, it will really serve the Snoqualmie citizens well for many years to come. Keep us in that proactive lean on the maintenance, so we don't incur a lot of those deferred maintenance costs, which can otherwise chew up valuable resources, as many communities do. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we are going to move on to...
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you. Great job. And I'd like to see the video go on the city's website if it hasn't already.
All right, thank you. We'll make some sort of, or have some discussion at staff meeting tomorrow about maybe a way we can push that out through a press release or link and so forth. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd. All right, inclusive park grant. Who am I queuing this up to, Mark? Who's doing the, is this Dylan or?
Is Robert available? Robert might be able to, or Mark Hoffman, I think. If not, I can certainly do my best.
Well, I can start it off with this inclusive park issue. Drew Buda has prepared a short presentation identifying the numbers, and the numbers mean everything. And then we have some good news from the county that Dylan Gamble can share with the council. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Council. I'm going to share my screen if I have that opportunity. It says I can't share my screen right now, so whoever
sharing, yeah, Mark, Mark Gherkin, if you could, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I believe everyone can see this presentation. All right, so in essence, we're going to have a grant matching discussion tonight. And really what the city needs is probably a decision tonight, because we have a deadline that's coming up in order for us to accept an RCO grant from basically the state of Washington. All right, so if the governor signs the legislatively approved budget without changes, then the city is set to receive a $475,000 grant from the Recreation and Conservation Office. In order for us to officially claim this grant, the city needs to show that it has the matching funds available to complete this project by Friday. Now, King County was expected to cover roughly $175,000 of the total project cost, which is required for the match. However, as of right now, they can really only offer us $60,000. And I would stress to you that it's only right now. We know that Councilmember Lambert is working diligently behind the scenes and has a couple budget amendments that are going to come up for a vote tomorrow that may help us in this matter. However, as a result, right now the city has a match shortfall of approximately $116,000. And so we're going to try to figure out a solution, or at least provide you with a recommended solution out of an abundance of caution. So how did we get to $116,000? Well, starting with the project cost that we submitted to RCO at $970,000, if you subtract out the grant that they were willing to offer us at $475,000, what's required from other sources as of right now is $495,000. So far, the city is willing to contribute, and this is based on the amended CIP the council passed recently back in April, is willing to contribute roughly $290,000. In addition, we're set to receive roughly $29,000 of donations that have been fundraised really by engaged citizens. And then in addition to that, King County is willing to provide us with $60,000 as of right now in reimbursable grants. As a result, we've identified so far roughly $379,000 from other sources, which leaves us with a difference of $116,000 that we need to find. The administration's action or recommended action right now is to reallocate roughly $116,000 of the budget program for the playground replacement program, is shifting that over to the all-inclusive playground project. The original budget that we had set aside for the playground replacement program for the 2-year period was roughly $478,000. If you subtract out $116,000 that we would then shift to the all-inclusive playground, we would roughly have roughly $362,000 left over for us to spend for a new replacement or to replace a playground. Now, the 21-22 funds that we had programmed for the playground replacement program, they were intended to fund the replacement of the Riverview Park playground. We figured that such a course of action was at least decent right now, given the proximity of the Riverview and Centennial Parks. We have to keep in mind that in essence, the all-inclusive playground will not only support differently abled people, but all children in this community. And because both playgrounds were scheduled for downtown, we would still continue the support 2 playgrounds for downtown, even if we were to shift dollars over to the all-inclusive playground project. Other actions that we considered included reallocating $116,000 of funds programmed for the Meadowbrook Trail project. However, because there is a partnership that we want to maintain and evolve with the Meadowbrook Farm Preservation Board, as well as the City of North End and Sideview Parks District in relation to the Meadowbrook Farm, we kind of want to keep that money available just in case something comes up in the future. And this team, this joint venture, hopes to reapply for that RCO grant that they didn't necessarily receive in this go around next year. In addition, we've also considered moving the proposed all-inclusive park playground from Centennial Park to Riverview Park and combine the 2 projects budgets together. However, we believe that we've identified a good location at Centennial Park that minimizes extraneous work and cost. In addition, if we were to have to try to move the all-inclusive park playground or all-inclusive playground project over to Riverview Park, we have to understand that it may require the repositioning of amenities at Riverview Park in order to fit the size and scope of the all-inclusive playground. And in addition to that, parking may be an issue. I think there's been some consideration at the committee level. If we were to potentially reduce the actual project costs and therefore meet our need for identifiable sources, for example, just by reducing the project costs, and therefore that would also reduce the RCO grant that we would receive. In order for us to, how much would it take for us to reduce the project costs in order to receive an RCO grant that would match or equal basically the other sources that we currently have right now? Will be roughly a $228,000 reduction that we would need to shave off the project cost. And so in essence, I think that concludes our presentation. Our recommended action is to basically shift funding that we had initially allocated for the playground replacement program and shift that over to the all-inclusive playground project.
Okay. Anything else, Drew?
No, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, so the challenge that is before us, council, right now is I believe we have to respond to RCO and give a commitment to them on whether or not we're receiving the grant by the, Drew, is the 28th or the end of this week on Friday?
Yeah, the 28th.
Right, which of course there's no council meeting between then. So now we hope to by tomorrow, end of business tomorrow, get word on, there's 2 bills, one $40,000 out of Councilor Lambert's budget that she's looking to reshift some of the monies in her current budget to direct some toward the youth and amateur sports grant, or to supplement that with an additional $40,000. And then she's going after additional monies to just put a straight $80,000 toward that. So we could either get one or both of those. It's either, so it could be 116. I'm sorry, someone's got their microphone or a bunch of static on it. Everybody could mute, please, to figure out who that is. Thank you. So anyway, it could be 40,000 more against this, 120. So maybe it's only leaving us with about another 80,000 to come up with, or it could be only another 40,000 to come up with. So we're being hopeful we'll get at least one of those amendments that Councilor Lambert would be going for. And again, but of course the dilemma is at this point we won't know that until tomorrow evening. So we kind of want to get a thumbs up or a read from the council members whether you would support this. A couple of different options. One, would you support this with, even if we were not to get additional monies from the county this week, would you still want us to commit to the RCO that we're going to take the money and then try to find the other $116,000? Would you, and if you're no on that, would you be a no on if it's either 40 or 80 or both? Obviously, it's an easy yes if we get both of the additional monies from King County that covers the full amount. But would you be comfortable with if it's either or? In other words, do you want to give an approval with any sort of contingency on that? So if we could, we just kind of open that for discussion. Again, there's still a lot on our plate tonight, so we need to make that as efficient as possible. Any questions, comments, discussion?
Yeah, my hand's up, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, why am I not seeing? Oh, I see what happened. Okay. I scrolled down my participants, so I wasn't seeing the, Councilor Sunwell, go ahead.
So I am fully supportive of this park. I am not supportive of shifting money away from Riverview. I think it's, as a downtown resident, I don't see Riverview Park and Centennial, they may be close geographically, but given there is no park on the City Hall side of Railroad Avenue, that Riverview Park is the de facto park for residents on that side. And for it not to get its necessary upgrades, people can walk there. They're not going to walk to Centennial. And so you're requiring people to get in a car. And I think, especially with the pedestrian activated lights that have been installed across Railroad, that's a very walkable park for most families. So I fully support us matching, going after this thing, and just figure out where to find the 116. It probably won't be that full amount, but I'm find it somewhere else, but not taking away from Riverview.
Okay, so just to confirm, because I'm going to kind of go down through the list and note where the support is, so I know where my marching orders are. You're saying, say yes to RCO, but let's find another place for the $116,000.
Yeah, say yes to RCO. They don't have to know what budget item it's coming from. I don't think they're concerned about that. We'll find the money. I'm just telling you right now, I won't support it down the road if it's taking away from Riverview Park.
Okay, so even with RCO, if we just point them to a general capital fund reserves or something like that. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Holloway.
So I'll reserve most of my comments because I agree with Sean for the most majority. But the other question I have is, when you did what to reduce the project to make it fit within the budget currently available, I guess I have a slightly different question of what are the reduction opportunities? Not necessarily take it all the way down to what RCU have, but let's see if we can have some reduction opportunities. So maybe it's not 116,000. It's only 100,000 we need to figure out. We could save additional money that way. But that could be homework assignment after Friday.
Yeah, so basically, because that's a question that came up at committee and one that we certainly looked at hard internally. I think our conclusion was it was sort of a game of diminishing return, because the way the RCO grant works is it's a 50% match. So for every dollar that you reduce the project, they take 50 cents away. So
right.
you have to basically save $2 for every dollar you want to get it down to get the match. So they're going to go down correspondingly. I think Mark Kerr had done some calculations on it. We were probably down to a $600,000 project. It would be a pretty severe compromise to the nature of the project to do that. So if I could, I don't know if there's other staff or members that want to comment on that, or Mark, if you want to comment on there. Someone's got a really awful hiss coming from their microphone button. Bob, I think it's Bob Jeans. I think it might be you. If you could turn yours off for a moment. Thank you. That is it. All right. Councilmember Hallwood, I'm still not sure if I got a yes or a no. You're sort of undecided, not knowing if we can size it.
I agree with Sean. I do not like this coming out of Riverview, but I think we ought to go ahead and demonstrate 116,000. I think there's some more homework to do for where that money comes from. Further, I hear you, take $1 off, get 50 cents back, but I don't think that's something not to look at.
Sure. So you're saying, given the timeline, go ahead and say yes.
Go ahead.
Worthwhile risk, even if part of that is looking with RCO down the road of trimming the project to trim that 116,000.
Well, and I'd further, tell me how much money is set aside for the trails we mentioned in Centennial Fields. How much is 116,000 of that? Yeah. That maybe that's more amenable, but let's go get the money and then let's worry about where we're getting it. But Riverview is not it.
And again, this can be easy depending on what happens at the county council tomorrow night. All right, Councilmember Shepherd, go ahead. Yeah,
so I support this funding, and I also agree. I don't want to see it go away from Riverview Park. I think Meadowbrook may be part of it there, or maybe one of the other playgrounds that's not downtown And I see Brian and Bob have their hands up. I'd like to know what they have to say.
All right, thank you. I will turn to the city attorney real quick because you might have some information that's pertinent to the discussion. Bob, go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to follow on Councilmember Sunwall's comments. The form that the city's being asked to sign right now doesn't formally commit you to accepting the grant. That will come with a grant contract. It does require us to certify the availability of matching funds. And so that will give the mayor and staff and council some latitude further on that to figure out exactly where which projects, how it affects the schedule, the overall CIP budget. So,
yeah, Bob, the certification doesn't require us identifying, which Peter we have to borrow from to pay Paul. We just say we certify that we have the matching funds, correct?
Correct. And I think it may ask for, for a fund number identification, but I think that those are our fund categories are fairly broad buckets of money.
All right, great, thank you. And for informational purposes, I'll take a break and go to Brian Coleman as well. I see his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The initial grant, when it was applied for, the 970,000 was based on a very preliminary design. So with that, with these particular kinds of projects, there's a number of different pieces. It's similar to buying a car and ordering the different options. If you wanted the heated steering wheel, that's costs a little bit more. If you don't, then you don't have to pay for it. So I am in total agreement with what you were talking about, Councilmember Holloway. I don't want to take money away from anywhere. Here in Public Works, what we try and do is maximize the dollars that we can utilize. And if that means we have to subtract a small piece out of this or create a different design with less expensive pieces to go with it, we definitely want to try and stay within the budget of whatever gets approved. And I fully expect it to be less than the 970, but until we get a finalized design, obviously I can't guarantee that, but just know that this is, we are of the same mind, and whatever Public Works can do to help bring that down with our experience, then we're all for that.
Truly expecting nothing less from you guys.
Councilor Mayhew.
Well, I'm gratified to hear that staff would be aligned to what the council appropriates. I guess I assumed that was always the case, but I would just say this. This is a fantastic project that's been proposed. I would hate to see us take off the heated steering wheel or whatever the equivalent is. This is a fantastic project. It is a regional benefit. This is not just a benefit to our city. This is absolutely going to be a regional benefit. And I think that it's appropriate for the region to pay for that. 290,000, which is what we've allocated for this, is a fantastic commitment from our city. We spend every year only 200 to 250 on our whole park renewal program. So that's a fantastic commitment from our city. To then be asked to pay more, I think this is the wrong offer. And I think we're going to get the right offer over the next year. To be given the wrong offer with a quick rush to judgment, I think we're just getting the wrong offer, folks. There's going to be more money for capital projects coming from the state and the federal government over the next year. We have to have confidence in that. This is exactly the kind of project, shovel ready, focused on some of our less advantaged or less able populations. We are going to get a better offer in the next year. We have to have confidence in that. I think we've done our part at 290. And the notion that we're not borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. There's no borrowing. We're taking money away from other things we could do. I think we've done the right thing. I'm proud of us at 290, but I think that that's our part. Our county and state and federal need to step up and do their part, and I think they will. Let's say no to this wrong opportunity. Let's hold out. Let's not skim this project. Let's do this project right. This is going to be a fantastic project. Let's do it right, but let's wait for the right funding. It's going to come in the next year.
All right, Councilor Mayhew, I'm going to summarize your position twofold. One, no to the current situation if it's a $116,000 gap. Yes, if county comes through tomorrow night and closes that gap in its entirety or in part. You're saying that even if it's even if they get $80,000 tomorrow night and it's still $40,000 gap, hold out for the better offer. Could you clarify, please?
That's right. I think at 290, we have absolutely done what we should do. I think that's enough. The county and federal state have to step up with the rest. I don't think we should increase our spending, our funding beyond that. But I think we should, I just want to make the point, we should do this thing, but let's hold out for the right funding from our partners.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jeans. Councilmember Jeans, if you could unmute. And,
I'm working on it. So I agree at the outset. I think we're mostly all on the same page. I agree at the outset with what Councilmember Sean has said. I like what Brian has said. And I want to emphasize the citizens of downtown Snoqualmie have waited patiently for too long for the improvements to Riverview Park. And I think we need to continue to commit to doing that. So I would side with Brian, Councilmember Brian, in that with whatever help we're going to get from the county, we ought to offer some sort of a fail-safe ability to make up the rest of it. That's all I have.
all right, Councilmember Jeans, so if I can summarize your similar Councilmember Holloway, it's a yes, tell them yes by Friday or by the deadline. But if we fall short on the county coming through, then it's maybe taking an approach of trying to trim the cost down a bit.
Right.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lassay.
Thanks, Mayor. These are the tough decisions that we have to make sometimes because, Snoqualmie, we didn't have parks. I don't know what we'd have. It's a big part of our community. I mean, we all use them. We all enjoy them. I'm privileged to have one right out in front of my house. I can't imagine what would happen if the city decided not to improve that park for whatever reason. That being said, I want both projects to go forward. I want the all-inclusive park to move forward. I want Riverview Park to move forward. I'm not willing to take monies from Riverview to fund an all-inclusive park at Centennial. Councilmember Sunwell is correct. While they may be seen as being both downtown, they are not close to each other. It's a significant different distance between them. And so I also believe we've contributed far in excess of what we would normally have done to do a park. It is time for the state to step up. So if this is not the right offer, then we should not proceed with it, because I don't want to sacrifice. I'd rather wait it out a little longer and not sacrifice having a park that is maybe not meeting the needs of our all inhabitants of our community, and possibly risk having another park that would be substandard as well because we took money away from it. So if you're summarizing my position, it is we need the county and the state to step up. If they don't, I would not proceed with accepting the grant. I would wait for a better offer.
Well, it sounds like your position's aligned with Councilmember Mayhew. Sorry to insult you in that way, but
if I have to align with Councilmember Mayhew once in a while, I guess I have to do that.
Okay, so no to this offer, but of course, if the county comes through with the full amount, not with partial, but with the full amount tomorrow, then it's a total go.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ross. Councilmember Ross, if you could unmute, please.
Okay, so I remember maybe it was 2 years ago when we tried to get this in the budget at the state, and we were told that we were the alternates. We didn't get the funding. We were really disappointed that we didn't get it. We're thinking, oh, well, some other project falls through, then we'll get it. Well, that didn't happen. I feel fortunate that now we do have the funding for this park. I think we need to go forward on the park. How we get the rest of the funding, hopefully King County will come through for us. And if not, then I think we need to look at the overall scope. $1 million for a park is quite a bit. So we could look at the overall scope on perhaps reducing it a little bit. But I think we need to take the money and work on this park. Oops.
All right, so yours is it sounds like a yes, vote for the county money, but if it doesn't come through even in part or in full, you're still going to pull up your sleeves and work to either reduce costs, find several other areas to make up that $160,000. Is that accurate?
Right.
Okay, thank you. I think I've gotten all the council members. I see, oh, Robert, go ahead. If you want to add some.
My hand is up again, Mayor, just whenever it's my turn.
Yeah, I understand. Well, thank you for clarifying. You didn't forget it. But just doing round robin, I want to get to some of the staff and maybe get some more information to the council as well.
Well, just to be clear, I don't know that round robins includes staff.
Okay, it's not round robin, it's information. I want the staff to provide the council with information, so I'm gonna go to the staff. Robert, go ahead.
We did have a discussion internally to Councilmember Ross's point about, can we still receive these funds if we do scale this project down later? And that, yes, that is a possibility. We're not completely bound to keep the same scope we have if we receive these funds.
All right, Councilmember Sunwell, go ahead. Thank you for your patience.
I don't know if I was exhibiting patience, but I'll take it. So this is what I'm about to say is a plea for unanimity. Yes, we likely do have federal funds coming. I would love to use those for something else. This is money that we've been allocated and it's been committed to us. And I believe we will find the 116th. I don't want to spend a penny more. I think we're already spending too much out of the city's money to do this, honestly, but I don't want to spend a penny more either. I am confident that we will find $116,000, possibly as soon as Wednesday from the county or Thursday. But if not, we will have time between now and when we have to pay the bills to find 116 from somewhere else. And maybe part of that is that federal money that's coming, but I would love to use that federal money for a pool or some other activity. We have this thing that's been given to us. Why would we pass on it?
All right, thank you. Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, this is just kind of from left field. Did we look at the possibility of making the Riverview Park an all-inclusive park?
That was mentioned in this presentation, and the challenge I have there is that's a busy road.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't provide the same footprint, and it would just be flipping the same dilemma where you'd have to take money from the Centennial Fields in order to fund the gap at the Riverview Park. So. But just so the council knows, right now, by my count, there were only 2 of the 7 council members that said, kind of a hard no if the full county funding didn't come through. So the majority is there. I've been given enough of a majority to give direction to say yes on the grant. But know that we started immediately once we got word of this to contact Councilmember Lambert. In fact, I had an opportunity to interact with her that very afternoon. We found out later that day. She was very enthusiastic about it. Dylan's been having great conversations with her staff about it. In fact, I anticipated her to maybe pop by the house here and say hi to you all tonight. But anyway, I think she remains optimistic about tomorrow, and that, much of this conversation tonight would have been irrelevant and not even necessary if we had it been done a day before rather than a day after. So we're hoping. Let's all hope for the best tomorrow. But right now, I think we got the direction we needed. So for the sake of time, if there's no objections, or Councilmember May, I'll let you conclude, making some concluding comments perhaps on this topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing that I think about this project is I really hope that we do not in any way scale it back. If anything, I'd like to see us scale it up as much as we can. This is such an exciting project to me. I'm so wholeheartedly in support of this. Let's do it right. Let's not skimp on this. Let's not try and put it in the wrong place. Let's do this right. And what I'm saying is, let's get the right funding for it. if we can find the right funding, if the county comes through tomorrow, that's fantastic. I really hope we don't go down a path that says, hey, maybe we squeeze it down. Let's do this right. It's going to be such a fantastic thing. And let's do it right. And let's find the funding. That's my big push.
Great, thank you. And well, that point helps me clarify the direction I'm having is I have 3 clear yeses without a contingency of either cutting, reducing costs or whatever. And two that kind of steered more toward reducing some costs of the scope of the project. So Councilor Mayhew, you can take heart in the fact that that will have to be a conversation that will come back as to whether it's cutting additional projects or cutting this project if we're not successful this week with the county. So very good. All right, thank you all. With that, we can move on. Drew, thank you for the great presentation. You always make those presentations look, whenever they look kind of easy, you know, a lot of time has been thought has been put into it. So thank you. And Dylan, thank you for your efforts too. We'll be crossing our fingers. You've been working quietly behind the scenes to, again, help put the monies together and working with Councilman Lambert's staff. All right, with that, moving on to Finance Administration Committee, Agenda Bill 21036, agreement with the Prothman Company to provide an interim public Parks and Public Works Director.
The city currently has a vacancy in the Parks and Public Works Director position, which is critical to the operations of the department. The Prothman Company is a Northwest-based consulting firm that specializes in executive recruitment services, interim staffing, and organizational consulting to cities, counties, special districts, nonprofits, and other governmental agencies. It is anticipated that the expenditure discussed below will not exceed $102,697. Move to approve an agreement with the Prothman Company to provide an interim Parks and Public Works Director in a form to be approved by the city attorney.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 21036 as stated by Councilman Mayhew. Is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this prior to possible action? I think Skip is with the hospital, but he's certainly a member of the public apparently at this time. All right. Any questions, comments, Council? Go ahead. Councilor Sumwell.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I assume this means we're not hiring within. And then my second question is, have we used this recruiting firm before? Because I would love to find a director that's going to stay.
Mark, go ahead. Mark,
sure. And I'm going to apologize right out of the gate for creating any confusion on this one. So the motion, and I guess it's possible to do an amendment at some point, would be to actually, Greg, the Prothman Company is going to be providing public works consulting services, not providing us with an interim director. This is the same exact model that we used when Ben Yazizi was here with his company. He came in and served basically as a public works director, for lack of a better term, Parks and Public Works Director, but was doing it under a consulting agreement. So that's going to be one piece. As far as working with the Prothman Company, yes, the city has used them for recruitment services. The purpose of this agreement is to build a bridge so that there's consulting and leadership in the department until we can recruit for this position permanently. In conversation with the mayor, our goal is to begin the recruitment for the city administrator first, which we hope to get rolling here in the next week or two. And then a few weeks after that, we would begin recruiting for this position. And that way, the new city administrator will be able to select this very important person for their team once we get that person seated. So I hope that answers your question, Councilmember Sunwell. If not, I can certainly expand if needed.
It answers that question. The only question is, why won't you stay on as the city administrator?
Point of information?
Go ahead.
Mayor, I just wanted to be clear, is there a deficiency or an issue with the motion I've made? Is it not the motion that the administration was hoping for? And if so, perhaps someone could let me know what motion is requested?
No, I think it's accurate. I think the city administrator's comments meant that he was apologizing if there was any confusion to think that this was an interim position versus a contract position.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, the form letter agreement that is in the packet was reviewed by me, and we and modified to my satisfaction with Mr. Kaufman's cooperation. So it is actually this document before you that we're seeking your approval for.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lissay.
Thanks, Mayor. City Administrator clarified for me as well. I was also wondering if this was an interim position or was this a hiring a company to operate as the interim Parks and Public Works Director. But the question I actually have is, I'm seeing that this is the budget amount of 102,000 and change, but is also limited in the contract to 867 hours worked through the 2021 calendar year. But further down in that same paragraph, it says the consultant does not exceed the 867 hour in any calendar year. So I'm a little confused at what the duration is for this interim. Is this just for 2021? Is this a certain time limit, or is it just purely the hours and then the interim contract ends?
Sure. Yeah, the restriction that you found in the hours that we have put in this contract is because of PERS requirements, the state pension system that the different people that are retired out of. The person that we were hoping to get on board, Steve Clark, he's actually here tonight. He is actually a PERS retiree, and if he exceeds those hours that are in there in the agreement, he would have to pause his pension, and then we would have to start paying his pension payments and all of that. So it was just easier and cleaner for us to establish that ceiling of hours for us both to fill that position, and then within this calendar year, he would wrap that up. So again, our goal is to have this position filled below that 870 hours that's in the agreement.
All right, Councilmember Shepherd.
So the other regulation that I think of is how long, like for instance, when you work at Microsoft, a contract can only go for 6 months or whatever before you run into other rules as far as whether you're a full-time employee or not full-time, 800 hours, or whatever that number is, where you're supposed to get some sort of health benefits or whatever from that employer. And I'm just curious how that plays with this contract.
Bob, do you want to handle that one?
Sure, and I think the prevailing decisions in that area, we're looking at consulting arrangements that were in excess of 2, 3, 4 years or longer, particularly Microsoft. And so a contract of this duration should not pose those issues. That said, there's language in the letter that makes it very clear that benefits for in the form of sick leave, vacation, health benefits, etc., are between the Prothman Company and Mr. Clark, and not an obligation of the city.
All right, Councilmember Sumwall and Mayhew, you still have your hands up. I don't know if you have more questions. Councilmember Sumwall.
I do not.
Councilmember Mayhew.
I was just going to comment that knowing something about Microsoft's employment policies regarding consultants, Microsoft has their own reasons for the particular timeframes they use. Has to do, it's a very complex area of employment law having to do with co-employment and so forth. But the policy that Microsoft has is for their own purposes. It would be a misdescription to describe it as being required by law.
All right, Councilmember Ross.
So I am fine with the agreement. I'm curious when Mr. Clark can start.
He is planning on starting tomorrow at 7:30. So we got to get the document. If the council approves it, the mayor's going to have to sign it at 7 in the morning. So he is ready to go. He wanted to start last week, and we're excited to have him on board. He met some of the staff when the mayor and I met with him, and the staff is very supportive of him as well. And I'm very confident that he's going to do a great job for the city.
The mayor's up at 7. Oh. I thought I was muted.
I'm up earlier than that. All right.
The ambitiousness of it, though. That's awesome.
Seeing no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right, thank you, council. And you're right, congratulations or my regrets to you, Steve. Thanks for jumping in and helping us out in our time of need. Did you want to introduce yourself, or I see your videos on, maybe just to say a quick hi to the council?
Well, I certainly want to thank the opportunity to work with one of the cities I think is one of the great cities in the Northwest, is Snoqualmie, and I look forward to the opportunity of working with the administration, with the staff, even Bob Sturbank. We've crossed paths a few times. And anyway, I look forward to working with a wonderful public works team. So I hope to get a chance to meet you one and all.
Great. Thank you, sir. By the way, Steve grew up in Kansas, has a brother named Kent. I got all messed up, sorry, never mind. I got that backwards. Okay, moving on quickly. Where are we here? All right, so we have a couple of agenda bills on what to do with affordable housing money. Starting with Agenda Bill 21038, agreement between the city of Snoqualmie and the Administration for rental assistance.
The City Council adopted ordinance number 1232 on April 27th of 2020, imposing the sales and use tax authorized by RCW 82.14.540. The sales and use tax is a share of the 0.0073% of sales and use taxes already imposed and collected by Washington State, and may be used for specifically defined housing purposes, including rental assistance to tenants. The Snoqualmie Valley Ministerial Association, which operates the Helping Hands Ministry, provides a variety of human services, including rental assistance to people residing in the Snoqualmie Valley. Under the proposed agreement, the city would reimburse Helping Hands for rental assistance payments on behalf of tenants residing within the city limits in the amount of up to $2,000 per tenant and up to $24,000 in a calendar year. Move to approve the agreement between the City of Snoqualmie and Snoqualmie Valley Ministerial Association for rental assistance services and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 21038 as stated by Councilor Mayhew. Seeing no members of the public, is there any discussion, council? Councilor Shepherd, go ahead.
Yes, I noticed that this is 25,000 annually or 24,000 in a calendar year. And I'm not in favor of having this go on year after year. So I will be voting no.
All right. Any other discussion or questions, council? Councilor Ross and Councilor Mayhew.
So I believe that the term of this agreement was just for the first year, and then we can choose to extend it into another year if we decide that this is just for this year.
Correct. But it does contain that dollar amount limitation because of the way this sales tax credit is calculated. It has a statutory limit to it that's based on a percentage of sales tax paid in Snoqualmie in the 2019 state fiscal year. And so $24,000 is the round number that is less than the total estimated allocation that would be allowable in the extension. But Councilmember Ross is correct about it is for 1 year, and that committee did talk about, depending on how things worked, that the council revisit a similar arrangement next year, since the tax would be, it has a 20-year lifespan.
Councilor Mayhew.
Yeah, just to reiterate what the city attorney and Councilmember Ross said, this, what is in front of us has a specific term of this calendar year only. The wording that Councilmember Shepherd correctly pointed out seems to imply that it could be for additional years. That's just to enable, that's just some forward thinking by our city attorney's office to say, hey, we don't know how long this thing is going to last. It might be that as we get to the end of the calendar year, we decide to extend this into another year. They've just written this in a manner that simplifies our ability to do so. But this cannot be extended into another year without additional action by this council. So the only thing that's in front of us tonight is 1 year, no more than 24,000, no more than 2,000 per recipient. So that's all you're voting on tonight. It can't be extended without additional action by this council.
Yeah, and I would add that for both this agenda bill and the next one for the Valley Shelter Services, using similar monies, per conversations at the committee level, we made it clear to both these organizations that this was unique and one time only for during this COVID year crisis, and they should not count on this being a reoccurring revenue source for operations. Okay. Councilor Shepherd.
Yes, I mean, I can't go through it quickly enough, but it really does read to me as if it goes on year after year, and I don't see where this says it stops over after 1 year when I look at the agreement.
Bob, did you want
to? Sure, just a moment, Mayor. If I have to get the document.
Are you doing that, Councilor Mayhew?
Oh, I was just going to ask if Mr. Sturbank could put up the operative clause onto the screen for us so we could see that.
Oh, okay.
Clause number 5, and there is no extension verbiage in here, so it is clause determinate.
Right, it ends December 31st.
Well, maybe we could just put that on the screen so that all council members can just see that.
All right, I can't, it will not let me share screen while someone else has it up, but who's ever got control?
We'll just direct them to which exhibit to open up or which link to open up.
It is the third, it says AGR agreement, COS, City of Snoqualmie Helping Hands. It's the PDF, and if that could be.
Which page?
Go ahead, Bob.
Please go ahead and share your screen.
Page 2, clause 5.
Councilmember Holloway has correctly identified the term. And I will, here now it is allowing me. Can folks see that?
Yeah, the duration of this agreement is from June 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, period. Unless sooner terminated. Okay, Councilor Ross, did you have, sorry, Councilor Ross, you still have your hands up.
No.
All right. If there's no further discussion, then Councilor Shepherd, are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I don't see anybody's hands up, so if there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to Agenda Bill 21039, Agreement for Housing Related Services between the City of Snoqualmie and Snoqualmie Valley Shelter Services.
That's 039, Mayor, is that correct?
Correct, 039.
The Snoqualmie City Council adopted resolution. Excuse me?
Continue.
Yeah, the Snoqualmie City Council adopted resolution number 1557 on October 5th of 2020, imposing a sales and use tax in the amount of 0.1% on retail sales and uses within the City of Snoqualmie. Resolution number 1557 specifies that a minimum of 60% of the tax proceeds shall be spent on eligible uses set forth in RCW 82.14.532A, which include funding the operation and maintenance costs of facilities where housing-related programs are provided. Because the Snoqualmie Valley Shelter Services will provide shelter and case management services for persons experiencing homelessness at the Post Building and former library, the Snoqualmie City Council finds that the capital and other costs incurred by SVSS remodeling the Post Building and former library constitute operations and maintenance costs of facilities where housing-related services are provided within the meaning of RCW 82.14.532A 3Is. Move to approve the agreement for housing-related services between the City of Snoqualmie and Snoqualmie Valley Shelter Services and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion and second to approve Agenda Bill 21039 stated by Councilman Mayhew. There are no members of the public left, so we'll just move on to the council deliberations. Councilmember Shepherd, go ahead.
I'm not familiar with the post building.
It's the building immediately across the street, across River Street from the City Hall. They've done some pretty impressive improvement work in there. I was just in there last week.
Green building.
All right, see no further questions or discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. All right, motion is passed. We now have a discussion item regarding, we've been given direction to start preparing for a 0.2% TBD vote by members of the citizens or the public. And so the staff has prepared a presentation on it tonight to make sure we have clear direction from the council on how we're proceeding, or at least confirmation from the council or concurrence and support from the council on how we're proceeding with that. So Drew, is that to you as well?
Yeah, so in essence, I'll be sharing the presentation and Robert will be guiding council.
Informing council. Council guides itself.
Good job.
So tonight, and again, this is a culmination of, I think, pretty much 3 years of discussion now on, what revenue sources we can look at in the future and look at currently. And so we did an evaluation of our current vehicle license fee. Some people call it the TBD, but the TBD is actually the district that was absorbed by the city. So in terms of this presentation, I'll be referring to it as the vehicle license fee. But again, right now it's the $20 car tab, that's the permanent, and then the $20 that's the temporary for the on-ramp. And I'll go into the detail here. Next slide, please, Drew. So again, current vehicle license fee, the city currently implements a $40 vehicle license fee. Ongoing $20 for the transportation improvements, that's the base that we receive every year. And then the temporary $20 is the car fee, the tab fee to pay for the city's share of the I-90 on-ramp improvements. The first temporary, but now, of course, permanent on-ramp improvements, as far as we know, passed by council in March of 2020. And because of I-976 and COVID, collection actually did not begin until August of 2020 of this fee. The sunset of it, per the council ordinance, is April of 2022. Next slide, please. At $20 equals approximately $203,000 of ongoing revenue and annual revenue for transportation capital funding. Because the city is built out at this point, we're not growing population. People tend to have the same amount of vehicles, even a little less based on trends going on. This is a stagnant number. There's no COLAs, there's nothing else. This is a stagnant number year over year. Next slide, please. So just to break down, and I'll go slowly through this, the $20 temporary vehicle license fee. So this is the temporary fee. So this is the $20 you passed in April of last year. $600,000 the city share, or the estimated city share of the I-90 on-ramp project cost. Contributions from other sources, this was the tribe, and I believe also the cities of Covington and Maple Valley. That was at $175,000 that was also contributed. So the total funding requirement for the city when this project went underway was $425,000. We have collected approximately $152,000 year to date on the temporary vehicle fee. And like I said, it's a little slower collection than we first anticipated based on COVID and based on the other issues going on with the state at the time. So right now we're looking at about $273,000 forthcoming replenishment remaining. And so right now we're collecting an average of about $17,000 per month for the temporary vehicle fee. If we assume 16 months remaining, we're going to replenish at about September of 2022. You did ratify the temporary tax through April of 22, but I'm going to show you options and administration recommendation going forward here. Next slide, please. So the 0.2% transportation sales tax. A transportation sales tax, if enacted, would be generated on all sales tax categories. That also includes construction and one-time sources. So if you think of the base 0.86% that's levied right now, that you set aside the sales tax for construction each year into capital. The rest of it goes into the general fund. This, because there's no set aside, it's all capital for this purpose, intended capital improvements for streets, that'll be all one time. So you're going to capture any sales that's generated by this 0.2% sales tax for this particular revenue source. A full year of tax revenues, and again, this includes all sources and all categories, would generate approximately $550,000 in ongoing revenue. That's compared to the $203,000 that we currently generate with the $20 ongoing vehicle license fee. Next slide, please. So just for comparison purposes, you can see, so in 2022, you would have you'd collect approximately $330,000 in the sales tax because there's a ramp up period. If you went theoretically in November for passage of the sales tax, the earliest we can implement per state law is going to be April 1st. In addition to that, there's about a 2-month lag time between when businesses start collecting this tax and reporting it to the state to when the state cuts us the check. So all of our sales tax, we lag about 2 months from when that collection happens to when the payment from the state happens. So that first year would be a partial year. 2023 would be your first full year. That'd be about $580,000. That's compared to $203,000 you'd normally receive just for the $20 vehicle license fee. And again, the difference is with the sales tax, you're growing each year like you are on the base. You're growing at least COLA. I'm not assuming any new development in this number. So this is just that base sales tax increasing. Doesn't include the mill site, doesn't include any options for development that has been discussed with the council. That's just the base. But you can see each year, if you generated that 0.2% sales tax, it's going to grow. If you continued with the vehicle license fee the way it is, that $20 car tab, you're stuck at that $20 fee, $203,000 approximately each year going forward. Next slide, please. Current sales tax rate, Washington state sales tax. This is just a breakdown, mostly for reference. I won't spend too much time on it, but just really fast. You could see that the state sales tax itself, they collect 6.493% that they keep. We get it sometimes in other programs and other services, but essentially that goes to the state general fund. We don't touch it. The affordable housing sales tax credit, like we spoke about in a previous agenda bill tonight, that $25,000 a year, that's that 0.007% that was passed by council. City sales tax, regular, that's the tax rate is 0.5%. The King County share is 0.075%. The Department of Revenue handling fee gives us a 0.005%. You can see the optional, same thing, 0.5%, 0.075, 0.005. Essentially, the city receives about 0.84% currently from the base sales tax. Then after you factor in the admin fee from the state. City affordable sales tax, this is what was ratified last fall by the city, the 0.1% for affordable housing. Again, there's a handling fee on top of that, so we receive about 0.099% back to the city. And so if you're looking at our whole tax rate is 8.7% right now. This is what you pay on any transaction within the city of Snoqualmie. King County gets 0.15% of that. We receive 0.946%. So we receive under a cent even with that add-on tax. So when you're looking at the percentage, we receive under 1 cent of 8.7%. Next slide, please, Drew. So comparative sales tax rates. You can see where we're at. Carnation and us, we're the lowest of some of the cities that I've included here. Duval would be at 8.9%. So if you theoretically pass the 0.2%, we'd be at 8.9, we'd be where Duval is. We'd still be under North Bend. North Bend does levy a public safety sales tax of 0.1%. That's why they'd still be higher by 0.1%. You can see Monroe is at 9.3%, Issaquah is at 10.1%, Seattle's at 10.3%. And the average for all of them is about 9.6% or so. So we'd still be under the average for the cities I'm surveying here. Next slide, please. So again, proposed sales tax rate, again, you're just adding that 0.2%, so that'll put us at 1.145% net to the city. And next slide, please. So the impact of a 0.2% sales tax versus the $20 vehicle license fee. If you're assuming a 2020 population of 13,680, that's an estimate right now because the final census numbers have not come out yet. The estimated per capita impact, and this is again, we put this together based on Councilmember Holloway's comments. So this is our rough estimate of what the per capita impact would be. We're estimating if you take 203,000 divided by the population of the city of Snoqualmie, you receive about 14.83 vehicle license fee per capita impact right now for citizens. 0.2% sales tax impact per capita, and I'm going to go into detail on the following slide. That's about $20.73. And so the difference per capita is $5.90. That would be the change. So you'd see approximately, and again, this is a rough estimate, $5.90 would be your change each year. Next slide, please. And the way we came up with that number is we took the local share of sales tax, as you saw from the previous slide, was 0.946%. That was per capita. That's $98.09 based on the estimated population of the city. We calculated this. We stripped out any sales tax category we collect that we believe residents are not paying. If you're thinking any management services, anything a business is paying as far as sales tax, public administration, transportation, that's mostly warehouse categories, information services, both purchases by our businesses, and then of course, construction and manufacturing, none of that is in here. And we also took we estimated about 30% of the accommodation and food services categories, meaning all the restaurants, all the hotel, catering, the golf course, both golf courses, and all the events that they have, all their memberships. About 30% would be city residents, 70% outside. So approximately 65% of the ongoing sales tax each year, we're estimating is coming directly from city residents. So taking that 65% number, that's how we received this 20.73. So again, we're assuming that 65% of ongoing sales tax is generated by city residents. That's how we came up with the impact. Next slide, please, Drew. So the administration's proposal. We're proposing to eliminate the existing vehicle license fee and substitute with a voter-approved transportation sales and use tax. So the timing of this, the November 2021 general election, it's subject to a 50% plus one voter approval. Timing of the repeal of the vehicle license fee, the ongoing fee as well as the temporary fee would happen on April 1st, 2022. And that would coincide with the sales tax imposition. So again, if we go to the ballot in November, because there's a statute that says we have to report a new sales tax no less than 75 days before enactment. Enactment has to be the beginning of a quarter. So the earliest we can do with the November vote would be, the earliest we can enact would be April 1st, 2022. And that assumes, again, the November 2021 voter approval. The tax rate, again, we're recommending to the 0.2%. The council can do anything up to that 0.2%. 0.2% is the maximum allowed by law right now for the transportation sales tax. In the term of the tax, we're going to write it as such that it will allow for the potential issuance of bonds to pay for transportation improvements. So with the issuance of the bonds, if you just write that potential in there, then this would be a permanent tax. Next slide, please. I'm getting some feedback on the line. If everybody could check their mute, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Questions for council to consider. Should council eliminate the existing vehicle license fee and substitute with a voter-approved transportation sales and use tax? The timing for what election should the ballot proposition be submitted? Timing of repeal of vehicle license fee. Under current city code $20 of the existing $40 fee sunsets or expires on April 1st, 2022. And then the question again for the council is, when should the new sales tax go into effect? And again, in summary, as we said before, we're proposing that the temporary sales tax and the permanent, or the temporary car tab of $20 and the permanent car tab of $20 would both sunset in April with the imposition of the new 0.2% sales tax. Councilmember Mayhew?
Sorry, I can wait to the end of your presentation. I apologize.
Councilmember Mayhew, if I could just jump in. Robert, I want to clarify on slide 11. I'm a little confused because we went over this earlier. I thought what we agreed is we would recommend to the council to let the temporary one expired as is set in the ordinance, but keep the permanent one until September in order to recoup an amount of revenue equal to what we needed to fully reimburse the temporary on-ramp.
Okay, yes, we could do that. One thing when we looked at, Mayor, and I
In
apologize.
order. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, otherwise we're giving up a pretty big chunk of revenue. You just laid it out earlier about the delays due to the initiative I-976 and the court hearings on TBD revenues delayed our being able to collect that by 5 or 6 months. We lost quite a bit of revenue according to the original plan that was embedded in that ordinance with the April 1st date. So it seems the council would accept as reasonable, especially with the year-long delay to where the public still benefits from that, to commit to the original commitment we made to the public and ourselves, and that was to implement that temporary fee until such time it was fully reimbursed for our costs. Councilor Mayhew, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't think this is correct. So I'm not talking about the proposal. I'm just trying to get clear on things. So I'm worried that, so it is my understanding that in fact the tax was being collected by the state beginning on that April 1st. There was a delay in that money being passed through to the city, but I don't believe there was any delay in the taxpayers of our city paying that tax. So I just want to get clarity. I'm worried that we're focusing on our cash receipts to the city, which lag, and therefore we're going to kind of get some wrong numbers floating around in here. So I just I want to be sure if I could ask specifically, when did the state begin assessing and collecting the tax, and what is the lag time that we're currently experiencing between when they collected and when they paid over to us? And the reason I want to get clear on this is it speaks to, Mayor, the question you were just trying to focus on, which is, at what point will we have collected what the council intended, which is we intended that the additional $20 would be collected until such time as we had paid our share of the on-ramp. And the fact that that may lag, so I want to stop assessing our residents that tax. The fact that we may not receive the money from the state for another 4 or 6 months, I don't care about. I just don't want our citizens to overpay. And by the way, just to the point you made, Mayor, I wouldn't really care if we extended the first 20 longer, or the, like the mechanism. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. And I'm worried that we're confusing when the state sends the money to us versus when our citizens paid the tax, and therefore how much they paid.
So unlike the sales tax, there shouldn't be a lag time with this. But what I can do is I can do an inquiry with the Department of Revenue to see and get at least in writing what happened last year, and we can get that back to council.
That'd be great, because at the time, in May of that year, I thought I saw people paying the $40. So I just want us to be very clear on this. And obviously, Mr. Ahmoud, if you knew when they started assessing it, you're in a position to then estimate, how much is lagging and all that. I just want us to get clear on the facts. Mayor, I think we can still give you the direction you're after tonight, and we can just say, hey, work out the facts on this to calibrate the dates. But I just want us to get clear on that.
But just to clarify, since this was a previous fiscal year, this is the cash we received from Department of Revenue, so the money's correct. That's what we received. Now, if they withhold anything, or if there's a lag time, that's a separate issue. But the cash receipts, that's the cash we received. That number is correct. But we will check to see if they owe us something. I mean, that's
Exactly, Mr. Mood. I don't question you at all. In fact, we had
absolutely
a very favorable state auditor's report tonight on that very subject. So I have absolute confidence in what you've collected. What I'm trying to focus on is, hey, how much is the state holding? How much are we yet to receive? Because I don't want to see us charging our residents an amount and then discover by the time it all gets paid through, oh my gosh, we over collected.
So the point being, the recommendation we're making is we don't need to sweat the date certain. The date certain isn't the issue. It's the amount collected that's certain. And whether it's collected 6 months later or 5 months or whatever, we just need to time it to where we stop collecting the temporary fee and shut that down. But because we have this ability, right now we don't have to even monkey with that date for several months or even through April, because we can just, when the new, if it's approved, it's when the 0.2% goes into effect, we can then retire the permanent one, and then let the temporary one continue until that amount, which we have yet to determine exactly, Councilmember Mayhew, to your point, and I don't disagree with you at all. I think the council would concur. It's the amount of money until we determine which date or which month is it that turns off the spigot once we've collected the amount of money to pay for that on that.
So we would, I believe, Mayor, to do that, it sounds like there's at least agreement to look at that going into the future by the council. We would, I believe, Bob Surbank, we would need an additional ordinance to extend the amount of time we're collecting that $20 fee. If it in fact goes above and beyond.
No, we would not. I thought we clarified this in our meeting earlier, Robert. No, we would not, because we're flipping it, like Councilmember Mayhew just said.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes,
okay.
You got it. Yes, sorry.
Councilmember Shepherd. If you can unmute, Councilmember Shepherd.
Well, I'm working on it. Okay, so term of tax, potential issuance of bonds, and what exactly does that entail? And this seems like we're kind of working in the gray as far as, are we asking the voters to approve a bond or issuing bonds or not? And how much will the bonds be that we're talking about issuing? So those are the kinds of things that I'm really unclear about term of tax.
I think, or go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, with that. So as discussed so far, the voters would not be asked to approve a bond. The city is authorized to issue both councilmanic bonds or voter-approved capital bonds. The reason for the question about the term is that the statute would limit the term of the tax to 10 years unless a longer period if the tax revenue is pledged to repayment of debt. And so if the council is contemplating potential future issuance of bonds, then the wording of the term of the tax would be drafted differently to pledge proceeds to repayment of debt and to set the term accordingly. But to circle back, no, the voters would not be asked to approve a specific bond issuance right now.
All right, Councilmember Holloway. If you could unmute, please. Yeah.
So I'm somewhat frustrated by the conversation tonight because I thought we were discussing the $20 permanent tax being replaced by a sales tax, and that the $20 temporary tax was a separate issue. So I'm confused why we're having a drill down on that. It's distracting. Two, the reason I asked my question is as with utilities, we were uncomfortable raising utility rates on a certain segment of the population business by more than 8% or 50%. We went for 3%. I am uncomfortable in raising the tax to our citizens as a result of this by more than 100%. So my real question is what is the tax rate by which from the citizens we would collect the $203,000 annually and escalate based on from the sales tax, so I assume by inflation. And then all the rest of the sales tax collected by, we assume, businesses and external entities shopping within Snoqualmie I'm more than happy for have them help pay for our roads. I am uncomfortable with raising taxes on the individual families and taxpayers by a significant amount. So, Robert, I'll take your math. I'll do it back, but I don't think I want to do a 0.2% just because that's what they allow me to do. I want to do a tax rate as a replacement and then gain some of those external entities.
Councilor Hall, could you clarify where you got the comment when you said 100% increase? It was going from, I think if it's on Robert's numbers, maybe.
So let's back up a slide, and maybe I got the numbers wrong. But let's back up a slide.
Yeah,
well,
so
it's 50% increase if you do it's going from about $14 to $20 on a per capita basis on that one slide. Right now, your vehicle license per capita is $14.83. If you do the 0.2, it will be $21 per capita for that population.
This does not account for, again, any increase that the state does in car tabs. For example, again, I have a hybrid car. I live in the city of Snoqualmie. I was charged $80
Not germane
extra.
to the discussion tonight, Robert.
Okay. Okay.
So Matt, in essence, if you take that $20 per minute tab right now and you divide it across the citizen population of Snoqualmie right now, they're paying $14.83.
yeah, right. You understand that, Councilman Mayhew, but I might calculate it for 39% increase.
I have more hair.
I calculated a 39% increase. That's why I was curious where you got the 100. But
I'm sorry, 100 was wrong.
But let's be realistic. Percentages sound pretty wild and huge and outrageous, but we're talking about $5.90 annually, 50 cents a month. We were hard pressed to find the sort of a latte per day or per week. We were hard pressed to find something that you spend 50 cents a month on. That would be the equivalent of what it would cost you. And again, your challenge is we need more revenue, period, to keep up with progressively or maintaining our infrastructure and not end up falling into deferred maintenance at exorbitant costs. So if you don't find additional, it's back to the kind of the large global Venn diagram of which bucket are you going to find a way to close the gaps on needed revenues or cutting costs. So if not here, then where do you want to do it? We thought we had direction with the council that this is one of the tools in the toolbox you wanted to use. I don't think anyone was ever trying to hide the 8 ball that it would, a more than doubling of the amount of revenue collected would result in some increase from residents, but it also involved an increase of collecting monies from non-residents that otherwise aren't paying a fair share at all of using our.
More than happy to go over to those non-residents.
And we don't know if there's a mechanism when a person purchases at a local store, if they can, flag them by their zip code on their Visa card, not to charge a resident for a 0.2% sales tax and charge non-residents amount. So we don't have a mechanism like that at our disposal. So we're happy to entertain other revenue sources or options if you want to provide those along with your analysis.
Okay.
It won't be my problem to solve it after this year anyway. So good luck. Councilor Ross.
I think one of the examples when we talked about it at our F&A committee was that it would take $10,000 in spending at 0.002%. So your 0.2% would be 0.002 times 10,000 would equal that $20 for your car tab. And so I think the sales tax is more people will be purchasing things through the tourists. It won't only be the residents that are spending that $20, right? And so there's a huge benefit of having this sales tax versus continuing the $20 TBD. And I did a non-scientific approach. I pulled a bill from May 2020 on my car, and it was not on there, just the $20, so not the 40. Anyway.
Yeah, I noted that too. I think it was the same on my car. So that, in fact, Councilor Ross brought that to our attention, we were kind of alarmed that was not being collected at the time. Councilmember Lissay.
Is there more presentation or is this the time to ask questions?
This is the time to ask questions, sir.
Excellent. I just wasn't sure because we sort of jumped in real fast. I wasn't sure if Robert was done because the one question I didn't get was just, I'd like to have some confirmation on what this tax could be used for. Where are we drawing the line? Does it only utilities? Is it only transportation projects? Could it be used for capital? Could it be used for operations? Can it, give me some boundaries of where we can use the sales tax?
It's a great question. Bob Sturbank, could you please talk to the restrictions around transportation?
Just generally shorthand, transportation capital maintenance projects only, not utilities, not operations, not any of those things. And
what kind of projects would fall into that category, just from a general standpoint?
The Snoqualmie Parkway Rehabilitation Project. There is a streets reconstruction or street repair project budget item in the CIP, projects of that nature.
Or Bob, if you could hold for a second. Robert, did you keep those other slides and throw them at the past the question slide, like I suggested, the list of the capital projects?
And I'll pull up the stats.
Yes.
Can you just scan to some of those slides to give the council members an example? Some examples of the types of projects that this money would qualify for that the staff pulled off of our CIP list. Our non-utility CIP. Great, thank you. Bob, you could, sorry I interrupted, you could continue with your answer.
No, that's, I'm done there. I'm just going to pull up the statute and just to refer to the language specifically if there are additional questions in that respect.
Yeah, sidewalk replacement program alone, as the council knows, is a pretty big one with the street trees, with the soils problems on Snoqualmie Ridge that are pushing up sidewalks and curbs all over town. That's going to be a very costly one. So to have more revenues for that is really critical.
Can I ask one follow-up then on projects, just because I don't see it here?
Yeah, Robert, could you scan up to the prior slide as well? Go ahead, Councilman.
What about tree replacement? Does that fit under transportation? Because it's, some of those trees are having problems because of sidewalks and also, growth within the right of way.
Well,
Bob, do you want to address that?
If there are questions about specific projects, we're going to want to vet those more carefully and not respond on the fly, I think.
I understand.
All right, Councilor Mayhew.
Yeah, so I wonder if you could back up a few slides. There was a slide where you had for us the total dollars currently being collected, estimated, and the total dollars that 0.2% would generate. Yeah, it's there. So my general thought on this, fellow council members, Mayor, is I think that the concept is fantastic. Take a $20 car tab fee, and by the way, when we think about questions of how this hits our population, a family at the wealthier end of the income scale and a family at the lower end of the income scale both have to have a car. And so this is something that disproportionately hits those in the lower income when you think of it as a percentage of their income. So I don't love the car tab fee. I also like that a sales tax, and remember, sales tax isn't imposed on some of the basic necessities that we all need, like groceries. So this is on to other things which those in higher income brackets consume more of, not necessarily proportionally more, but more of, so they pay more of the dollars of the tax. But the other thing that's fantastic is our transportation, our streets are used by people beyond those who live here. And so by assessing this as a sales tax on everyone who buys things in Snoqualmie, including visitors, I think we've got a more equitable application of the tax to those who are benefiting from the streets rather than just making our residents pay for it all. So I love this shift. I think it's a fantastic shift. I wholeheartedly support it. There's some nuances I think we need to get to the bottom of as to exactly what the dates are. By the way, Councilmember Ross, thank you very much for highlighting that May thing. That's the question we're trying to get at. And I think Mr. Hammoud will be able to get the answer from the state and give us a real sense of exactly when is that cutoff. And so whenever that is, but that's great. But I think, so nuances aside of when we, propose to do the switch, I think this is a really good switch for our residents. So I wholly support what we're doing. To me, there's a timing nuance to be worked out. And then the other thing that I want to think about is, if you look at that second bullet on the screen, if we go to 0.2%, and this is what I thought Councilmember Holloway might have been referring to earlier when he said 100% increase, because we're going from 200,000 to 550, which is actually more than doubling the total dollars. And so I think there's a question here of, if we do this, we're doing more than just changing the type of tax, we're also increasing it. Now, we could say, hey, let's do 0.1%. That would be I'm roughly estimating half of that 550 would be 2.25. So that's pretty close to 203, which we're currently getting. So we could say, let's do the switch, but let's not do the tax increase. I'm wholly supportive of at least doing that. But then the question is, and I think the mayor was trying to kind of get us to think about this, is, but maybe we should go ahead to the 550 because there are so many projects that we're struggling to fund. We all just went through what we did at the retreat, and then following that, when we passed our 6-year non-utility CIP, we've got more projects on there than we've got funding for. So I think the question is, do we want to try to increase the funding for those projects? We can figure out which ones to allocate them to. The way things work, right? We decide on spending sort of separately than revenue, but what we can spend is driven by what revenues we generate. So in my view, I wholly support doing this at least 0.1%. I think for voters to understand why we're going to 0.2%, I would think that we would want to have in mind how we're going to spend at least the first 10 years of that, which 1 or 2 or 3 projects or whatever it is, we think we're going to put that money to. I think if we don't explain that, I think it's going to be hard for voters to understand what we're trying to do going to 0.2. So I wholly support it at 1/10. I think if we're going to go at 0.2, we need to explain what that additional money is going to be spent on.
Councilor May, you hit on another issue of why at the committee I said to Councilor Holloway, I think the formula on trying to determine the increase to our residents is fairly kind of too complex to compare apples to apples. And that is the variable you just described about this being more regressive or progressive tax than the regressive one. The car tab fee is very regressive. We have, in those lower income levels, you often have households that have multiple vehicles because they can't afford a nice running high-end vehicle. So they often buy multiple vehicles in case one breaks down, they need the second one to switch to get to work. So they kind of have that backup vehicle. So not only is that lower income family as a proportion of their income paying more, but they're actually paying considerably more because they have even more vehicles. So it's conceivable in that scenario that family switching to the sales tax versus the TBD at that income level, especially we're doing not as many sales purchases, would probably end up spending less on just general sales taxes that they would pay compared to the car tab fee, whereas those in the higher income brackets would probably be proportionally more just because of how many purchases they do. I did want to point out that this, just to illustrate that by getting tourists driving through town, this is more than a 2.5 time increase in revenue, but only a 39% increase to our residents. So that's a pretty good return or shift there. And again, that 39%, although it sounds huge, is not when you reduce it to a monthly increase of about 50 cents on average. And I would just add, I want to be a private citizen next year, so I don't have a dog in the fight of trying to solve this problem. But 1/10 of 1% doesn't fix the problem. I don't think it's worth the staff or the administration's time to even pursue that. If you're going to look at that, then just go to a $40 permanent fee. We got to solve the problem here, folks. Councilmember Holloway. Please unmute, Councilman Hall.
Will always support a progressive tax versus regressive tax. And that's just hitting your head on a wall. So I got no problem with that. However, you did show the numbers tonight to do the calculation. If 0.2 for the citizenry, if 0.2 is a $20.73 comparable per year, and 14.83 was in essence what they're doing with the $20 tab, in order to recoup what they pay today with a sales tax, it's 0.15. So if you do 0.15, and I'm even rounding up, you will recoup that $203,000 a year we do from the citizens. However, in addition to that, if you calculate that back to all the sales tax, we would actually collect $412,000 or $413 if you want to round up. Okay, so at 1.5, you're not taxing the citizens any more than they already are, but you are collecting the businesses and the external entities that come into the city for an additional $209,000. So that would be my proposal when this comes forward.
And we could not support that proposal or don't recommend it only for the fact that that's not the problem. The problem is you have too little revenue to take care of all the city's infrastructure and take pressure off the general fund. You got to solve that problem. It's a more global problem than just focusing on each one of these things at a time in a silo. Councilmember Mayhew.
Yeah, Mayor, I think you're making a good point, and I think it's possible you misconstrued my earlier comment. I was not saying I was against doing 2/10. What I was saying is that this presentation tonight has all been about a notion of replacing one tax with another tax. And I was simply pointing out that that presentation leads me to a notion of 1/10%. Or, possibly Councilmember Holloway's point, he's building on the analysis that was done here of what it would hit our residents. So I follow that as well. But what I was trying to highlight is, if in fact the notion is let's go ask for 0.2%, I think what's missing from tonight's presentation and what the voters would want to know before casting their vote is they would want to understand, okay, well, if the tax in total is going up, where's that going to be spent? If it's going to be spent on, just to be silly for a minute, if it's going to be spent on bubble gum, maybe I don't vote for that. If it's going to be spent on something that I think is very important, certain transportation projects that we have teed up for which we're struggling to find money, I think they might have a very different view. So I think it's incumbent on us to sort of, as part of this discussion, talk about where that additional money would go and why that is needed. I was not saying I was against that. I was saying it needs to be articulated.
Yeah, and I didn't for one second think that you were intending that, Councilmember Mayhew. I know you would fully support the 0.2%, because as we know, we had conversations recognizing that not only do we need the 0.2%, we could use the $20 card tab fee on top of that and should keep it. But our conclusion was we risk not getting an approved bond by that. So every nickel that you decide to trim this down, reducing the $20 card tab, you're eliminating that in place for 0.2, means you have to fix that problem somewhere else. You have to find that revenue somewhere else. You have to cut the cost somewhere else. Remove sidewalks, close parks, fire staff, find new property taxes. Just don't play a magic game that you can take it away here, but somehow you don't have to look for it somewhere else.
Yeah, so all I was saying is as this moves forward, committee, back to council, I think if we could add to this discussion a proposal either developed by administration or jointly with administration and council as to where we'd spend that additional money, I think that would be a key part of this. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, when you understand, because the committee members did see kind of the tentative calendar we've laid out, that we have some timelines to meet, getting this package put together into a voters package with statements, pro and con committees, yada yada, in order to meet the November date. So, we need some clarity here, folks.
Yeah, no, and to that point, you did ask us to comment on that. I am supportive of going to the voters with this in the November general election. That is the least cost method of doing it. And so I know that creates a timeline, but I would encourage us to do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Bob.
just to circle back on the allowable uses of the funds, so that the specific statutory language, which I wanted to have in front of me when I answered that, is transportation improvements as set forth in the adopted transportation plan by the city. So every year the council adopts a 6-year transportation improvement plan. So any ballot measure would, the ballot title would refer to the specific definition of transportation plans and point voters towards, where those could be found. You have transportation projects included in your CIP as well. So, there would be more detail in a ballot title language, but specifically, those are the improvements that we're talking about that this tax could be used to fund. And I think the transportation improvement plan was in front of the Parks and Public Works Committee this past week as well.
Yeah, if the council detects some frustration from me, it is because now I feel I have less clarity about where we're going as we move toward November than I did coming out of the conversations for the past 3 years and out of the council retreat. I thought it was a pretty big compromise for us to concede that we would need to let go of the $20 card tab fee, knowing that even getting more revenues from this would still not get us to where we needed to be with revenue. And again, I'm not the one that should feel the heat on this. As you all know, I've announced I'm not running next year. There are serious problems to solve, and I'm sort of imploring that don't do damage to yourselves. If you commit to sort of giving us direction to use certain tools to solve the problem, it's not helpful to suddenly have taking left turns and detours on these different tools when we're told, go put this tool together, and then suddenly we're taking detours on that tool, or once we go down there. Well, then we got to back up and figure out, is there another tool you want to use? Another plan. So I'm not trying to be contrarian, but we're sort of getting to be pressed as the weeks go by. We have a 5th Monday month coming up. And as we get into June and July, these deadlines are going to start closing in pretty fast on this initiative. Either the council wants to do it or not. If they want to kick it into next year, that's fine with me. It was actually Councilmember Holloway that said, let's go ahead and do it this year.
Oh, I'm not arguing about November. I'm totally not arguing about November. All we're discussing is point what?
All right, I don't see any further hands going up or any further discussion or offering of direction. So with that, we do have a lot on the table still here for tonight. So Robert, thank you for the presentation. Maybe offline conversations, but I don't know, council, you'll have to talk amongst yourselves or figure out which direction you want to go. We're administration will wait for your direction. Need some leadership. All right, so with that, let's move on to I think, well, I'm going to, unless there's something pressing on committees, I'll just open it for all the committees right now. Are there any other reports on any of the committees? Or quickly, we're going to come back to Parks and Planning Public Works Committee after executive session, but is there any, Councilman Lasay, go ahead.
I just have real quickly on the council liaison report. Is that where we're at, or you want to stay with committees first?
Committees at this time, yeah.
Okay, I'll wait for the liaison report.
Thank you. Parks and Public Works Committee, any additional report?
No report.
Community Development Committee report.
No additional report.
Finance Administration Committee report.
No further report.
Public Safety Committee report.
No further report.
All right, so at this time, or I'm sorry, Councilman Lasay, go ahead if you want to do a quick liaison committee report.
Yeah, just really quickly for the Parks and Events, we had a good discussion in the last liaison, I guess the last commission session. One thing of concern is that there are only 4 members currently on that commission, and it's becoming difficult to have a quorum. I'd like to encourage Mayor, if you have an opportunity to look at some applications or get some more folks onto that commission, it would be helpful, because some folks, you miss one person and we no longer have a quorum at this point.
Yeah, thank you. It's been, during the shutdown with COVID and particularly events, it's been hard to get some excitement on what the committee's focused on right now, but thank you. Councilmember Ross.
We have not had a SCA PIC meeting this month. The next one will be mid-June. But I'm going to talk about Snoqualmie Valley Government Association. We have a meeting this Wednesday, and there's several different things going on. One is they'll have a presentation by Snoqualmie Tribe. Association of Washington Cities will do a legislative recap. King County Assessor John Wilson will be there and talk about the latest tax assessments and updates. So it's going to be a barn burner. So come join us.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other hands and other committee reports, we'll move on to executive session to discuss legal counsel potential litigation under RCW 42.30.110, section 1, lowercase I, triple lowercase I. I call the executive session to discuss with legal counsel potential litigation pursuant to RCW. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. The executive session is expected to last approximately 20 minutes, and I requested Administrator Carrera, Attorney Sturbank, and Astrakhan, and Jeff Hamlin remain. There may be action following. You're welcome to remain in this virtual meeting as we will return. We will be returning, of course, to pick up the agenda bills. All of you should have been provided with a separate link to the executive session, so if you could exit the meeting, use that link. someone please let Catherine Ross into the meeting? She's an attendee. Thank you. All right, we just need to let our city administrator in. We do have a quorum back, and not others. Councilmember Mayhew. I think everyone is back in. Are all the council members? Okay, with that, moving down under reports, Parks and Public Works Committee Agenda Bill 21037, Resolution 1582, declaring the existence of a single source of supply and special facilities and market conditions, and waiving competitive bidding requirements for the purchase of materials and equipment and authorizing purchase thereof. Councilmember Sunwall, are you able to read that in?
Yeah, I move to adopt resolution 1582, declaring the existence of a single source of supply and special facilities and market conditions, and waiving competitive bidding requirements for the purchase of materials and equipment and authorizing purchase thereof, and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, a second, to approve Agenda Bill 21037 as stated by Councilmember Sunwall. I do not see any members of the public here, so councilors, any further questions or discussion on this item? Councilmember Lissay, go ahead.
Just a, I don't know if it's a point of order, or just a point of information. This agenda bill was previously read in and seconded prior to setting it aside for the executive session. So I don't know if that matters that we did it twice.
All right. So for the record, we'll, if there's no objection, we'll rescind the previous reading, and now it's on the floor. So, all right. I'm not sure.
If I read it backwards, does that mean we unread it in?
Yeah, you have to unread one of these.
Yeah,
now.
read it backwards.
All right. I'm not sure if I've ever encountered that before in all these years. Good observation, though. Thank you. All right. Any further comments or questions on this one? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to Agenda Bill 21029, Resolution 1579, accepting conveyance of Snoqualmie Ridge 2 parcel S21A, Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. Oh, I'm sorry. We already did this one. Agenda Bill 21032, Amendment Number 2 to the agreement between King County and the City of Snoqualmie for design of record office revetment repair project. Again, this is for possible action contingent on bid.
Mayor, on this item, I think we would be looking for a council motion to postpone to a date certain, which I believe would be the last meeting in June.
We have to have a motion first, right?
Yeah, let's just get it. Let's get it on the floor, and then we'll discuss that. So if you could just read it in, and let's put it on the floor.
Administration recommends that the committee determine whether to A, approve amendment number 2 to the agreement between King County and the City of Snoqualmie for design of record office revetment repair project and authorize the mayor to sign, or B, put project construction on hold until 2022 and negotiate a contract directly with the FCD to address coverage for change orders and other unanticipated contingencies.
Second.
All right, I have a motion. A second is on Agenda Bill 21032, as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Any further discussion, or you heard the comments by Bob Sturbank? So, what is the?
Could Bob restate that motion so I can say as stated by the city attorney?
Certainly, we'd ask for a motion to postpone to a time certain the second council meeting in June, which is the 28th.
Move to postpone until the second council meeting of June.
Second.
All right, motion and second is stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Is there any discussion on that amendment? All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. All right, that passes unanimously. Moving on to Agenda Bill 21033, agreement with Parametrics for consultant services for record office revetment, repair, construction management, and inspection services.
Move to approve agreement with Parametrics Consultant Services for Record Office Revetment, Repair, Construction Management, and Inspection Services, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to Agenda Bill 21033, agreement with as stated by Councilmember Summel. Is there any discussion, council? I'm not asking for members of the public because obviously there's none in the attendees here. So, and again, any further discussion or questions from the council?
Well, yeah.
Councilmember Hall.
We didn't necessarily discuss this one, but I guess, Bob, should this one also be shifted to the June 28th?
I would defer that to Jeff.
Yeah, we can defer it. I think that it's nice to have our construction manager on board now through bidding, so I can feed them information and get their opinions on items. And it'd be nice to have them under contract to do that. But I believe that we can feed them information in advance of a signed contract and get some value out of that anyway. So we, in the interest of being safe with our money, we can wait.
Move to postpone until the second council meeting of June.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to postpone as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Any further discussion? Councilmember Ross and Councilmember Shepherd.
So it sounds like we need them to help us through this bidding process. I mean, is it that we just stated that you're going to feed them information, hope you'll get something out of them?
I keep them, yeah, Councilmember Ross, well, the plan that I would move forward with is to keep them apprised of the bidding issues, right? So all that information that comes up, if there's any addendums, as we move through the bid, I give them that information so that they're aware of it. They're already aware of quite a bit of this information, right? I've been feeding them along. I've had them in our meetings with our consultants. I've also had them in our meetings with our constructability reviews. They're very familiar with the project. And they should be, because that will help them manage the construction effort. We do not have a contract signed with them yet. That's what this agenda bill is. However, they understand how the game works. You know, they will get involved knowing that if the project moves forward, they've already won the competition to do the job. So they will get a contract once we move forward with it. And and we're not beholden to them to pay them until, if the whole thing goes south and we flat, we don't owe them.
Okay, thank you.
If the council's comfortable, given what Jeff said, I think it would be appropriate to move this contract forward so that they're available for work, and that if work is done, we're not in a disagreement later about whether compensation's owed or not owed.
That's true. They're not spending money yet, really. I mean, just the amount of time that it takes for their construction manager, the boss, to review and provide us his input. So we're really not into it for a lot of money. So if we move forward with it, we're not at risk, except for a few bucks.
Okay, so again, this is a vote on the motion to delay until date certain in the second meeting of June. All those in favor say aye.
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 I think I heard two, but I'll assume silence is. All those opposed say nay.
No.
Nay.
Okay, I think I think I heard 4 nays. There might have been more. Can the two that said aye identify themselves, so at least I can know that was a 2 count?
Peggy.
Okay. Okay, so I believe the vote did not pass then, so we're back to the original motion. Any further discussion on the original motion? All right, all those in favor then say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I don't know that there are any other items for the council meeting tonight. Thanks for everybody hanging in there for the long haul. Three and a quarter hours. Councilmember Mayhew, you had a question or comment?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion, a second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed say nay. All right, motion is approved. Enjoy the rest of your evening, folks. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.